After the 2008 entry of Lara Croft's adventure, Tomb Raider Underworld, the series was getting into some competitive territory with games like the Uncharted series and some other cinematic action-adventure masterpieces. What was left for the series? Well, 5 years later, a reboot to this long-running but also beloved franchise was released, simply titled Tomb Raider, or as most call simply named reboot by their initial year release, Tomb Raider 2013. This game seemed to be implementing a bit of Uncharted gameplay, but also using different and some unique formulas. Unlike Uncharted, Tomb Raider 2013 was a semi-open world, and had a lot more replay value besides the story and simple collectibles. Today, I'm going to be analyzing Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, or as I'd like to say, the first in the Definitive Trilogy, meaning remastered graphical enhancements and some technical overhauls will be present. Now, let's begin Lara's first journey from the actual beginning. Starting off with the story, Lara proceeds to go on her first expedition to find the lost kingdom of Yamatai, set on a Japanese island off the coast. After a deadly and violent storm, the ship they cruised in sinks, leaving Lara and company stranded on the island with no way off. For some reason, Lara finds herself alone, having to survive and find the others. After finding her friends, later down the line, her friends start to believe that Yamatai isn't real. While also trying to get off the island, they find that the spirit of the island doesn't want anybody leaving or entering, as it strikes down a rescue plane with a rather fierce storm. After hearing that Lara's best friend Sam has been kidnapped by the Solari, a cult group, she attempts to rescue her. It is then revealed that a stranger that Lara met earlier, named Matthias, is the leader of the Solari. They intend to put Sam through a fire ritual to see if she's the Sun Queen's successor, and will burn to death if unsuccessful. Sam is then seen as the rightful successor. Soon Lara discovers that Himiko's original successor took her own life rather than receive her power, causing Himiko to be trapped in her corpse. It is then revealed that the earlier mentioned ascension was a ritual that transfers Himiko's soul into a new body, killing off the host's original soul in the process. Days later, Lara and the remainder of her friends hurry to the monastery, with Lara fighting off the Queen's guards. On the roof of the monastery, Lara fights off Matthias and some Oni, while Sam suffers long enough for Lara to kill off Matthias in old school Lara Croft fashion with her dual wield pistols. Saving Sam and heading home with the remainder of her friends, Lara decides she doesn't want to leave just yet. Therefore, a survivor is born. I honestly think that Tomb Raider has a mostly unique narrative. It's a fight for survival, but as well as worrying and discovering the magic behind this island you are stranded in. Friends die, either trying to save each other or messing with the wrong people. The overall cast of characters is mostly strong, but not nearly as strong as, say, Uncharted's characters. And I'm sorry if I mention Uncharted a lot, I truly am. Of course, you have the attractive heroine that is Lara Croft, who is not as agile as her original counterpart, for story reasons, and I'm not complaining. You've got the crew who are mostly forgettable. The only crew members you're gonna need to know is Sam, Roth, rest in reasons, and my Hawaiian homie, Jonah. Then you've got the villain, who is Matthias, who I mentioned before is the leader of the Solari cult group. The voice acting and overall acting is very well executed, but props to Lara's VA, Camilla Luddington. She put in a stunning performance and will continue to do so in later games of the series. Cutscenes are well directed and dialogue is decently written. While it's not the best written narrative ever, it did keep me engaged for the duration of the main game. As mentioned beforehand, this is the definitive edition of Tomb Raider, so remastered visuals and technical overhauls are what I get. I'm not a person who's into graphics, so let's move on to art direction and art style. Tomb Raider has this dark color tone, both cold and warm. This is where the art direction and environmental design go hand in hand extremely well. They both give off this lonely and mildly eerie vibe to the cold color-toned environments, but also making them feel a little dangerous. Warm color-toned environments feel a little more safer and a bit more beautiful looking, but also indicating some action is about to happen. I also desperately want to mention the lighting. This game has some very decent lighting. Not only that, but the lighting just sets up the specific atmospheres. Dark caves and forests refer to intense survival that almost makes the game feel like a horror adventure. Meanwhile, it's not a horror game. This is more apparent in the first 2 or so hours in the game, but as you traverse new locations, the island starts to light up again, making you feel less scared of your surroundings, until it's dark again. But why do I say the lighting is decent? Well, some areas are a little too dark, such as areas that don't require a torch. There are some tombs and corridors that can be hard to navigate through because I can't see anything. And if you turn up your brightness too much, the game looks hella washed out. And that's all I have to say about the visuals. Like mentioned before, the gameplay is similar to Uncharted, but with its unique gameplay mechanics. One of those mechanics is the survival instinct. Similar to Assassin's Creed's Eagle Vision, Lara's survival instincts can highlight climbable ledges, rocky surfaces, points of interest, collectibles, enemies, lootable enemies, waypoints, current objectives, interactive objectives, and if fully upgrading her survival skills, every single animal that can be hunted down: birds, deers, wolves, crabs, mice or rats, etc. Combat plays out almost the same than in Uncharted, except that Lara automatically settles behind cover without pressing a button, which I absolutely hate in modern third-person shooters. Gunplay feels relatively decent, although the recoil can be a bit too much, especially in multiplayer, which we'll get into. But you'll be disappointed to find out that there isn't much variations in guns. You only have an assault rifle, shotgun and pistol, although you can craft your weapons to evolve and turn into something more than their default look and ability. For example, you start off with a standard M9 or so. The more you craft it, you can potentially unlock a burst fire mode and have a more optimized barrel and so on. With your AR, it goes from your standard AR to a freaking AK-47 with a grenade launcher, dude. You also update and craft your bow, until Jonah later gives you a top tier bow. The shotgun, from what I remember, stays your standard SPAS 12 with a few modifications, correct me if I'm wrong. When you complete the main story, the game immediately after the credits suggests you explore the island, and rightfully so. The game is filled with side content, such as collecting relics that you can examine, documents that share the lore, GPS caches which I'm not even sure what they do, and guess what? You can raid tombs, baby! Tombs are essentially you trying to either figure out a puzzle to get to a chest, or clearing the path and timing your movements to get to a chest where you have successfully raided an ancient tomb. What I like about some tombs is that they are artistically appealing and have this interesting ancient Japanese architecture in the environmental design. There are also challenges to be done in certain locations of the map. I have one issue with these challenges though. They consist of collecting, breaking, burning certain things, etc. Now that isn't my problem. My problem is that it's not always clear what you must do. These challenges have no description to tell or highlight what you must do. You have to go wandering off like an idiot, spamming survival instincts to see an unusual object or plant be highlighted. And let me just say, spamming survival instincts during the day gave me a headache twice in the span of 25 minutes. I'm clearly no doctor or medical genius, but I'm sure I was either disoriented or was a legit headache. Other than actual side content though, you can also just explore the island at your own pace and encounter enemies in a few random places. The way you know enemies are around is when the score sometimes gets intense, and Lara starts getting into a crouching position and then you hear sudden voices or see sudden subtitles pop up. It's a nice way of notifying danger or nearby enemies, especially for those who are born with a hearing disability. It's really helpful. A lot of you who have played Tomb Raider Definitive Edition might disagree with me, but I think Tomb Raider's online multiplayer is a bit rough around the edges. But it's not bad per se. Let's talk about the map design first. In terms of the layout, verticality, and gameplay opportunities, the game offers a great bunch of it. Heck, when you spawn in some maps, you literally slide into the action. I slide into the action more in this game than I ever do Instagram DMs, and that says two things about me. My biggest complaint about the maps though is the lighting. Why the heck is it that I can't see enemy players from a mile distance on 90% of the maps? It's so dark to see traps and enemies that sometimes you're the reason the team lost in TDM. Oh, and I can't really speak for the other modes since this game's online community is at that phase where everybody's just playing the more simple and easy to learn game modes, TDM. Now earlier I mentioned how the recoil is a bit much, especially for multiplayer. I was talking mainly about the AR or AK. Both the recoil and especially the bullet spread is hectic, requiring you to basically tap the trigger for minimal burst fire. One thing I found pretty cool though is that you can set up environmental traps, and anybody who steps into the trap has to find a way out. For example, you can set up a simple rope trap where someone gets hung upside down and they need to shoot their way out, or just chill upside down and shoot enemies that run by and slowly die as your blood goes to your brain. Tomb Raider multiplayer also allows you to choose between characters from the main story, almost like specialists with their own loadout that can be customized. Except you choose a character from both the hero faction and the villain faction. The villains are usually the solo characters. I would talk about the multiplayer progression, but I didn't feel compelled enough to grind this mixed bag. No offense to people who absolutely enjoy the multiplayer and or play it religiously. What is good and what is up everybody, ACJC here to let you know this is the first of what I hope to be a successful series of analysis videos. I'll be reviewing all three Tomb Raider games in the so-called Definitive Trilogy, since Sony has been so generous to offer all three games that happen to be complete or definitive editions over the span of like nearly 2 years. I decided why not review all three games since they all follow each other in terms of the story and timeline, and well, I have all three games now. I sunk in hours upon hours on writing the scripts as well as recording the lines, all in one sleepless night. So I'd very much appreciate your support by leaving a like, subscribing if you want more analysis / video essays, and comment your feedback or opinions. I'll see you guys soon with the next game in the series, Rise of the Tomb Raider. I know you guys can probably hear I'm super tired, and that's because I'm recording at 4:40 in the morning, and I've been writing the script and recording about 5-6 hours ago, so like 11 p.m. I've been working, and I'm very dedicated to my to my YouTube work. It's what I enjoy, so you know, sparing a night of very little sleep, I feel it's worth it. But with you guys' support, it will be even more worth it. So yeah, I can't wait to do the Rise of the Tomb Raider, since there's so much more. There's so much more improvements, so much more additions, and it's a overall more polished game. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that Tomb Raider Definitive Edition or Tomb Raider 2013 is a bad game per se, but it's Rise of the Tomb Raider is definitely a massive improvement, and we'll be taking a look at that soon, hopefully in a week's time or so. But yeah, until then, stay safe, take care, and take it easy.
I'm not going home.